Welcome to the Explainer. So, have you ever wondered how a government promise, like building more houses or planting a massive forest, actually turns into a real thing you can see and touch? Well, today, that's exactly what we're doing. We're going to trace that entire journey right here in Ireland, from just an idea on paper to its actual impact on the ground.
So how does that even happen? To get to the bottom of it, we've got to start with the basics. What even is a government policy? Because, it's way more than just a vague idea or a talking point. Think of it as the government's official game plan. It's them saying, okay, here's a big national issue, like climate change or the housing crisis, and here is exactly how we intend to tackle it. It's the what and the why before we can even begin to get to the how. Okay, so we have this game plan, but where does it come from? How does it get written and actually put into action? Well, it's definitely not random. It follows a really clear, structured cycle. This is basically the policy's entire life story. It starts with someone saying, hey, we have a problem, like the cost of housing is getting out of control. It moves through debates, gets funding, becomes a real program. But honestly, that last step, evaluation, that's maybe the most important part. It's the official checkup where everyone has to ask, did our big idea actually work? And what do we need to fix? All right, so that's the process for creating a policy. But where does the rubber actually meet the road? Well, the impact, the real-world change, happens across the three main sectors of Ireland's economy. This breakdown, as simple as it looks, is absolutely key. You've got your primary sector for raw materials, your secondary for making things, and your tertiary for providing services. Now, the really wild part is how one single government decision, just one policy, can send ripples across all three. Let's take a look at that in action with a few big examples. So let's kick things off in the primary sector with something huge, Ireland's incredibly ambitious strategy for its forests. I mean, just listen to that language, radically and urgently. The message is totally clear. This policy is about so much more than just planting a few trees. It's a plan to deliver major wins for the climate, for biodiversity, and for the rural economy. And to turn that big talk into reality, they've put a number on it, a huge number. And they're not just hoping it'll happen. They're backing it with a staggering 1.3 billion euros in funding. That makes it the largest program of its kind in the history of the state. And right here, we get to the heart of the matter, the real tension we're going to see again and again today. On one side, you have this incredibly bold, well-funded vision, but on the other, you've got the messy reality on the ground, where actually getting those 8,000 hectares planted every year has turned out to be incredibly difficult. All right, let's switch gears and move over to the secondary sector. We're going to see this exact same dynamic play out with the Housing for All policy, a plan that hits the construction industry directly. Now, this is a policy you've almost certainly heard a lot about, right? It's front and center in the news. It's the government's massive long-term strategy to really get a handle on the housing crisis, focusing on supply, affordability, and making it all sustainable. And guess what? Just like with the Forestry plan, we've got another big headline-grabbing number. The goal here is to seriously ramp up the supply of new homes by hitting this really ambitious annual target, covering everything from social and affordable to private housing. So you're seeing the pattern here, right? We've got this massive, historic, state-led ambition. But then it runs smack into the wall of reality. Things like inflation, planning delays, and a real shortage of skilled workers, all making it tough to deliver. Okay, last but definitely not least, let's jump into the services sector, the tertiary sector. And we're talking about a policy that's meant to literally reshape modern life in Ireland, the National Broadband Plan. The goal here couldn't be clearer. Completely get rid of the digital divide between cities and the countryside. The idea is to make sure that no matter where you live, you have the exact same opportunities in our digital-first world. And when I say this is a monumental project, I really mean it. This isn't just a few new cables. We're talking about connecting over 500,000 different properties. Homes, farms, businesses, many in very remote places, spread out across 96% of Ireland's landmass. The scale of it is just immense. Why now this story here is probably sounding pretty familiar. The vision is absolutely transformative, enabling remote work, smart farming, true digital equality for everyone. But the reality? It's been a project bogged down by massive costs and, you guessed it, some very frustrating delays. Okay, so let's take a step back. We've looked at forestry, housing, and broadband, and we've seen this tension between the big plan and the on-the-ground reality in each one. But here's the thing. These aren't three separate stories.
When you start to connect the dots, you see they're all part of a much bigger national strategy. I mean, just think about how they all weave together. The forestry plan, that's a direct shot at sustainability. The broadband plan, well, that's the backbone for the country's digital transformation. And that transformation is what enables the entrepreneurial thinking that allows new businesses to pop up in rural areas. And of course, the costs, the wages, the investment for all three, that's all tied to business and financial literacy and the health of the wider economy. It really is one coordinated vision for the future. And that leaves us with one final big picture question. When you have these massive, once-in-a-generation projects, how do you even measure success? Is it all about hitting that big, flashy target number every single year, no matter what? Or is success something different? Is it the slow, sometimes messy, but steady forward progress toward a future that's a bit better, a bit more connected, and a little more sustainable? That's the real dilemma when you try to turn any grand plan into reality.